In this lesson, we'll look at how we can make our tables more accessible to a web browser. Whenever possible, you want to make your web pages as accessibility friendly as possible. And what I mean by that is use the attributes that are available to you for certain HTML tags so that programs such as screen readers can understand the data that you are presenting inside your table without actually reading the data itself. In this lesson, we'll look at how we can use caption, summary, and table headings to help make our table more understandable to a screen reading program. If I look at my HTML code and scroll down and find the table tag, we can add an attribute to the table tag which a screen reading program will see, but the viewer will not. And that attribute is summary. Equals and quote, quote, the familiar syntax we've been seeing throughout these lessons. And since we know that web browsers ignore space, white space, within our HTML, I'm going to drop this summary attribute down onto a new line so that it's easier for us to view. The fact that this is on a new line makes no difference at all to the browser. The browser doesn't care if your entire HTML code is on one gigantic line or is on 2,000 lines. The browser doesn't care. It ignores empty white space. But within this summary attribute, which we've just added to the opening table tag, you can type text that a screen reading program will recognize and speak aloud. If we were building a newsletter, you might type, "This is the table of contents for my newsletter." And this text will be spoken aloud by a screen reading program. But if I save my file and switch over to my browser and reload and refresh, we don't see that text on the screen, because that text is not intended to help the viewer. It's intended to help the listener. Another tag intended to help with accessibility is the caption tag. This tag is recognized as being a caption giving more information about what a table contains, but also displays to the viewer. The caption tag is typically put immediately following the opening table tag. So if I position my mouse after the opening table tag and hit the return key, I'll type open caret caption, close caret, and I'll close the caption element with a closing caption tag. And within these caption tags, I'll type some text such as my newsletter to complete that caption element, and then from the file menu I'll select save or Command S, Control S on the PC. I'll switch over to my browser and hit reload or refresh, and now I can see that caption is displayed before my table and is presented sort of like a legend to your table, explaining what the contents of your table are. Another thing that you can do to help a screen reading program understand the structure of your table is identify cells as headings instead of just pure data cells. That way, a screen reading program can read aloud the titles of columns without having to read all of the data contained within those columns, making the experience much more bearable for someone who's listening to the contents of your table being spoken aloud. I'm going to quickly add some headings to this table to make it look a little bit more like a newsletter table of contents. I might change this text, which reads 1, to read something along the lines of astronomy newsletter. And I might make my table columns: chapter, title, and page. If I save this file and switch back over to my web browser and reload, it starts to look a little bit more logical. But we need to change the first cell in each of our 3 columns into table headings. To do this, we're going to modify the table data tags for the corresponding cells, which we wish to be our table headings. In this case, the change is very easy. all we need to do is change what is currently listed as TD to TH for table heading, and change the closing TD tag to TH, and do this for each and for only the 3 table cells which we wish to be headings. Now if I save my file and refresh my web browser, you'll notice that those cells are now bolded because the table heading by default bolds text contained within a cell marked as a table heading, and those headings will be recognized by a screen reading program and spoken aloud before the contents of the column are read aloud.